podcast. We are like recording this live and we're on YouTube right after India have beaten Pakistan in what is an almost a miracle upset. I'm your host Ashwin and DJ. Thanks for joining. What a bizarre day for like the first 3.5 hours of it. I'm extending, including the time with the rain delays, etc. It felt like it was not going India's way, and yet we pulled off a victory. DJ, how are you doing? Where are you feeling? It's a big day.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, at one point, India had an 8% chance of winning, given to it by Win Predictor.
Which in
Uh,
fact I believe is even lower than the lowest point when in 2022 when Kohli was batting and played that miraculous knock. I think the lowest India's percent
Really?
count was 15, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
So this is the
man.
second T20 World Cup game back to back where Pakistan has had 85 plus percent probability of winning, and India manages to pull it out. Sorry to interrupt.
Not quite as dramatic in the circumstances. Didn't quite go to the last ball. Well, Pakistan didn't have a chance to win at the last
Pretty
ball, but
close.
I mean,
Yeah.
what a week it's been. Indian fans, lots of them were in New York. You could hear the sound when the wickets fell. I mean, what an incredible outcome for Indian cricket fans everywhere. I mean, beating Pakistan in New York on a dodgy pitch after a little bit of a batting collapse. Where I mean, we should get into the selection and the batting,
Yeah,
but
we
I
will.
mean, if Melbourne was about the batting and Virat Kohli playing like the magnificent innings that he did, this was surely the Jasprit Bumrah show,
The
right? Like,
Jasprit Bumrah show. I mean, just unbelievable. And we'll get into all of it. And actually, DJ, it has been a weird kind of week and a half or so since the World Cup started because it probably started fairly predictably. Not that exciting. The game's very low scoring totals, pitch drama, and we'll talk about a lot of that in the second half. And it's sort of come alive in the last 4 or 5 days, if you will, right? Starting maybe with USA beating Pakistan, which was big. Then Sri Lanka, Bangladesh got close. Then Afghanistan absolutely pummeled New Zealand, and then you have England who potentially lost a point against Scotland because it was rained out, but then and then also lost to Australia, as Scotland has just gone on and beaten Oman by a huge margin. So there's a lot happening now that make these groups actually a lot more exciting than it looked kind of at the first 4 days of the World Cup. Looked like it was going to be pretty tame until the Super 8s. But we have to first talk about India versus Pakistan. I mean, how brilliant was that? I was sitting there, honestly, a run a ball basically after 11, 12 overs. I still thought it was a done deal because 119 was maybe 15 runs short. A lot of people who haven't watched the games at New York, by the way, probably felt like, where's the 180s, 200s, what's going on? Those of us who've been watching it, and early on, you could immediately tell it is not a 160 plus wicket. DJ, but you thought it was a 135 wicket, right? And I promise I'll go back and get into selection and all this stuff. But you thought it was a 135, 140 wicket, and 119 just fell short.
yeah, I mean, it fell very short because we played, I think, and as you were probably saying it because we were exchanging messages, I was like, I mean, Pant is making this look so easy, and we should get into Pant.
We'll get into
But
it all of it, yeah.
130 seemed like, I mean, at one point it looked like we were going to get more than that. But when the wicket started falling, it felt like 130 was kind of a winning score. There's a lot to be talked about. The pitch has to be talked about. I mean, it had its own issues, which we'll come to. But I think India were a little bit light, and they did the criminal thing by not batting the entire 20 overs. Now, I mean, they were bowled out within the 20 overs. There was lots of hat trick chances. I think Amir had one, then Rauf had one, and it felt like we'd thrown away kind of a golden chance to put this beyond Pakistan's reach by getting a 150 plus score. But not just that, it felt like we had ended up light. And 120 is a run a ball, right? Like you need to score a run a ball in the IPL. I mean, that's the kind of score you'd be looking to boost your net run rate with. But as we found out, New York is a totally different kettle of fish from any of the IPL stadiums. Long boundaries, slightly dodgy pitch, swinging conditions. Let's get into it, man. Let's
Even
get into
up
it.
until maybe the last like 8 or 9 balls left in the chase, I didn't believe. And I think it's not that I don't have faith in this team. It's just that like, one or two boundaries is all it takes, right? And it takes the game away from you. But let's get into it. So India batted first. Obviously, not the ideal situation at the toss. Incredible, like DJ, are we just incredibly unlucky in these big game type situations? It's you've had great weather for days on end, and suddenly it's a very cloudy morning. And it's always all the teams I think who chased it, New York, up until this match have won. And yeah, what is your take on that toss? Pretty important toss to have lost in hindsight. Obviously, we ended up winning the game, but you would think that's a very, very big toss for Pakistan to have won, right, at that point?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that sort of toss advantage that Pakistan had meant that India had to go hard, and you saw it in the dismissals of Kohli, you saw it in the
Yeah.
dismissal of Rohit, you saw it. All of them got out trying to make sure that they got an above par total. So we have seen good teams struggling to make kind of mediocre total. 70 odd has been difficult. 90. I don't know what the highest score so far that was chased has been on the New York ground. You're the stats guy, and I'm sure you know
Yeah.
better than I do. But it felt like India needed to get a 130, 140-ish score to make it competitive, and then 160 would have been like beyond. It would have been above par. But that toss did play a big part.
Yeah, I mean,
Did play
with
a big part.
four quicks and four excellent quicks on paper, right? In Naseem, Haris, Shaheen, and obviously Amir, you'd want to be bowling under those cloudy conditions. DJ, let's talk a little bit about selection. So it's the same 11 that played in the previous match for India, which again we haven't really talked about yet in detail. What is your take on kind of? I think that selection of three quicks made sense, and Arshdeep Bumrah Siraj was the right play. Jadeja was always sort of going to play at 8, and Hardik was probably always going to play at 7. So, really, what was your take on the top 6? The decision to sit Jaiswal out, sit Samson out, and then open with Rohit and Kohli, and have Sky 5, Shivam 6 kind of approach.
Yeah, so it was the same 11. It was the same ground. I guess the only question I had in my mind was the Dubey role. Now, if he's not going to be bowling you any overs, and yes, he's the designated spin hitter, but is New York a spin haven? Not really, is it? I mean, like, you're getting quicks, and Dubey's been okay against quicks, but he's had two IPL seasons ago weaknesses against quicks on flat decks as well. So to put him onto that track, that sort of like raised some questions in my head. Like, wouldn't you be better off having someone like a Yashaswi in that with a better technique, better against quick bowling, has played test cricket in South Africa, similar kind of spongy trampolini type bounce that he can play. And going back to Kohli at 3 and Rohit and Yashasvi left hand, right hand opening, there was also like there were some strange decisions to send in lots of left handers. So we should talk to that as well when we come in. But selection wise, I think that was the only thing I had on my radar. Does Dubey deserve his spot? Probably yes, in a Guyana or a Antigua where the ball is turning. But arguably, if you just put it as two batters against Spain, are you going to tell me that Yashasvi is any worse than Dubey? Like, we saw
Yeah.
him take the England spinners apart in like the Test series, right? 14 sixes in an innings at one point. So
Yeah.
Yashasvi can play that role if needed.
I think from a selection standpoint, the bowling option is proving to seem like it's worth more than it is actually seeming is actually proving to be worth on the pitch. But I think the fact that he can bowl if somebody is having a really bad day or if somebody gets injured, etc. But anyway, we'll come back to it because one of the things we were messaging about as well is Dubey also dropped a sitter early on in the innings. And anyway, we'll come back to it because he didn't actually field much during the IPL. And so maybe he's just shy of right. And
Rusty.
that
Playing
anyway,
a full game.
I
Playing a
mean,
full 40 overs.
that's part. I mean, we might as well talk it now. This is part of the problem, right? If he's not bowling, he hasn't been fielding much. He's been playing that impact player role. Then your question becomes absolutely valid. The way you're asking it is, listen, does he belong in the 11 on the basis of his batting alone in a place like New York? And the answer is probably no. Now the question is, okay, if you pick a Jaiswal, then are you really going to change that composition going into the Caribbean for the Super Eights? So a lot of questions. But DJ, let's get through the match then, right? So they end up getting one over in, and then went off for rain, came back on, and the guy who I think before this game averaged 308 against Pakistan in T20 World Cups because he'd only ever been dismissed once. Virat gets out to Naseem, and you can immediately tell the ball is sticking on the surface. It didn't come onto him; it swung away, so he had to sort of reach and lean into a shot he normally would have, felt like he had that little extra second to hit, and he ends up getting out for four. And is that an ominous sign for you, or at that point Pant walks in and actually it still makes it look pretty easy? So you didn't realize how bad the pitch was till later.
Yeah, but that's what he was saying. I was like, why is Surya batting like this? Like, why is he unable? What is this shot? You're like, I think Pant is just making it look, batting look easy. And I mean, there was one shot I think he hit off Amir early, fairly early on in his innings, which he took the ball from outside off stump. It just flicked it past like wideish mid wicket. It was an outrageous shot. Yes, he plays all the falling over, lap, but that was a proper cricket shot, right? And that is the genius of Rishabh Pant, because yes, he does all the falling over and he lap sweeps, reverse sweeps. We saw that in the first game against Ireland, right, where he reverse swept someone over the keeper. Um, but I mean, he just made look like a completely different surface that they were batting on. And while he was there, of course, there was a massive total on the board. I think he lost momentum halfway through. Yes, he was dropped many times, as the chat has been pointing out. Let's be clear, he was dropped a few times. Pakistan's fielding initially, when there was no sun, was pretty poor. But Pant seems to be really settling into this number three spot, right? And this is where he scored his highest ever for the Delhi Daredevils, if you remember, 2016, 2017, where he was the top scorer for them, batting three. So a bit of a new role for Pant, but he's proving his weight is worth in gold.
I think in hindsight, you look at 42 of 31 and say it's a decent score. You look at the total being 119 and getting defended, you say it's an amazing score. But then, yeah, you have to. It is one of those pitches. It felt like, and I know I sound very cliched, but it felt like you have to play your natural game, and Pant's natural game is to be aggressive, and that means he has and he will make very very poor looking single digit scores. He will. He'll make those. He'll have those knocks where he doesn't look good, and he gets out, and you're like, "What is this guy doing? He's so talented, and he had a bad day." But the good comes with the bad, and he played his natural game. And I don't think Dubé did later. Now he came in a different match situation, but he was looking overly defensive, and he couldn't make it count. And so, full credit to Pant, because 42 ended up being one of what I'm calling a couple of things in this innings that changed the trajectory of the game. The second, DJ, you mentioned it, right? So Rohit looked decent before he ended up getting out to Shaheen. Akshar walked in at four. What was your take on that, right? You're thinking Sky is now. When did the wicket? The wicket fell in the third over. It was 19 for two. Your question is, in the third over when a wicket's fall, is this team management and the skipper saying Sky isn't the right guy to walk into bat 17 overs, or what do you think? And by the way, sorry, long question. I should caveat. Rohit made it very clear. He said nobody in our batting order is fixed other than the openers. He said this before the game. He said we will be flexible, we will be fluid, and they made the point. They made a point of demonstrating that today. So, what's your take on that?
It's a proper CFO, CEO, CEO type of
Yeah,
move,
it
right? Like,
is. Yeah,
other than
good
us,
hedge. Yeah,
everyone is flexible. So
everybody
Kohli
is
and Rohit are
dispensable.
fixed. Kohli and Rohit are fixed.
Yeah.
Everybody else bats in random places. So no, so I didn't understand the logic of that move, but maybe I've just missed something. Now, Rishabh Pant is in, he's left-handed. Why are you sending Akshar Patel in also, who's left-handed? Yes, Patel's a good batter and he can finish it. But is Patel the right batter to come in there if you've got a Jadeja as well? Jadeja is a better batter, in my view, than Akshar. So why you saving him for the end? So I don't know what were we solving for. What was the issue that we're trying to solve for? Were we solving for left arm spin? Were we solving for,
I think you're
I don't
solving for
know.
somebody who can just consolidate, to be honest, right? And maybe it was Jadeja, and maybe it was a 50-50 toss-up between who they sent, to be honest. But I think you're saying Sky, Dubé, and Hardik, to an extent, are in the team to hit bigger, to pick up the pace, score faster. And at 2.4 overs, when that second wicket fell, I can see them saying we got to push up either Akshar or Jadeja. Now you ended up with two lefties, but I don't. I mean, it's easy to say this in hindsight because I've actually been critical of Rohit as a captain before too. But I think he had a great day out there today. He stayed calm and made some decisions. So I'm not
In the
sure.
field, yes, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure about that call to push Akshar up the order. I mean, forget the Jadeja thing. Like, Sky's opened the batting for India and scored 100, a magnificent 100 against England. And if you're batting first and you're trying to set the pace, what are you consolidating for?
I mean, I
Let him
think
bat 17 overs. What's the problem?
I don't think there was any sign that Sky had could bat 17 overs on this pitch. I don't think anybody could. Right? That's the point. It was a very difficult pitch to bat on, and we're underplaying that a little. But
Yeah,
the
but
ball was
isn't the
sticking. It was
theory that your batter should bat the most number of overs, especially in a 20 over game? I mean, like,
yeah. I get it.
come on.
I still sit here saying I understand the logic of saying, gosh, it was so hard to the ball was not coming on the bat. Punt scored most of his early runs off of edges, right? But he
And
was
some of his
aggressive.
late runs as well.
Yeah, and so while Punt is at the crease, give him company with somebody who can knock the singles, get one or two,
So
and Akshar sort of
I
did.
would have gone with Hardik for that. He's done that role for
Yeah,
Gujarat
but Hardik hit some nice
in
sixes in the previous inning, so I think now they're looking for Hardik to play more of a finisher role. So anyway, we
yeah.
can talk about this all day, but Akshar played a valuable knock, ended up making 20-odd
Hmm.
runs. Sky didn't make runs, Dubey didn't make runs, Hardik didn't make runs, Jadeja got out first ball. And you're sitting here now, and Bumrah got out first ball, right? Those were the two hat-trick chances that you mentioned. So you're not sitting here with Arshdeep and Siraj. They ended up putting on um, 16 between the two of them right at the end. And those could have proven match-winning runs, right? They did because we won by 6. Obviously
Arshdeep
getting
was
run out.
farming the strike against Hardik at one point. It was just
I
great
mean, how
cricket
great
to
is
watch.
that, right?
He took a single off the last ball. Hardik was like, no, Arshdeep just ran through.
Yeah.
It was
And
amazing.
he backed himself. He made 9. I mean, other
Yeah,
than getting run out
he
at the end.
smoked a four the next ball as well.
But it really did.
Justified.
It made the difference. I don't know, 119 maybe would have been 124, 125 if they'd batted all 20 overs. So silly to get run out at the end, but it makes a difference. All of these runs make a huge difference. DJ, let's come to the chase then, right? So I mentioned this early in the third over, Rizwan gets dropped. Rizwan is maybe. Let me start by saying Pakistan doesn't really, and this is easy to say having come off the back of 2 losses, but Pakistan doesn't really have any good batting on paper, right? They basically have Rizwan, they have Babar, who's been in a little bit of a bad patch, but he's an excellent batter, and then they have Fakhar, who comes in at 4. Osman Khan, Imad, Shadab, everybody's decent, but I don't think they have that quality of batting. So this match came down to Rizwan, and Shivam Dube drops him late in the third over. What was happening for you then? And then talk me through also the captaincy choices of not giving Bumrah the new ball. Because again, in hindsight, it looks amazing. But at the time, we were all like, what are you doing, Rohit? Why? You don't have enough runs. Why are you preserving Bumrah?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because
Yeah.
in hindsight, it looks great. Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
But if India had lost this game, these would be the questions.
Yeah.
Akshar, why did he bat 4? Why did we play Dubey? Because he totally looked at C and
Yeah.
has, in fairness, looked at C for some time since I think you guys said since his selection in the squad. So
Yeah.
yeah, because he didn't do anything at the back end of the IPL, right? And then the third one would have been you're defending 120 runs. How have you not given Jasprit Bumrah the new ball? Like, why why what is the thinking behind that? Because you need to bowl Pakistan out. As it turned out, India did not bowl Pakistan out. That is the crazy part about this.
Yeah. It's
Pakistan
true.
ran out of overs
Yeah.
to chase the runs.
Yeah.
And the chat has just pointed out as well that this is the first time India has ever been bowled out by Pakistan in a
T20
T20
World Cup. Yeah.
World Cup game. And but your natural inclination at that point is like not that we're going to stop them scoring the runs in the overs. You have to bowl them out to win it because you're so conditioned to think that 120 is a score that you cannot possibly defend if the other team bats the overs. And
Yeah.
that's the logic that Pakistan utilized while batting. They went, yes, they lost Babar early to a magnificent catch by Sky, but they just said, we're going to go run a ball and we're just going to knock these off coolly. And at one point, I mean, this could quite easily, Ashwin, if that review of Akshar had not been taken for Osman, been a game that Pakistan won by 8 wickets at a
Yeah.
canter.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
that
They would
review
have. Yeah.
was taken.
Yeah.
It was crashing into the stumps.
Yeah.
And that then, again, you said Rohit had a great day. You need to do those things. You need those little pieces of luck to go your way. I don't agree with the decision to not bowl Bumrah with the new ball. I thought you needed wickets to put the pressure on Pakistan.
Yeah.
But there is in limited overs another way of winning games, which is to like put the squeeze on so hard.
Yeah.
And Akshar, I mean, look at those figures. Akshar Patel,
Yeah.
magnificent figures for a game where you wouldn't have thought that he'd be What has he got? 3 overs, 1 for 9 or something?
2 overs, 1 for 11, right? So
Two
one
overs,
for
one for
11 in
11.
his couple of overs. Jadeja also bowled it tight, right? I think it all just clicked today. It
Hmm.
all added up. Even Arshdeep was a little expensive, both early on. Siraj was a little expensive late with no balls and wides and stuff. But I mean, even Siraj, I think he ended up giving 8 or 9 off 1 overs and then finished at 19 of his four, right? So everybody kind of clicked. Jasprit Bumrah, obviously the magician. Like you sort of, we've said this about 18 times on this show that I don't have any words left for him. I mean, he came back on for when was it? I think it was the 15th over. They brought him back on for his third, and the first ball, Mohammad Rizwan, by the way, was the difference for this
What a
match.
brain fade.
What
What a
a
brain fade.
ridiculous shot! I think there's just something there on all of the cricketing logic dictates this is the best. I'm going to say this is the best bowler in the world at the moment. Play him out.
Yeah.
You have more than enough balls left. And something in his mindset probably said, I don't need to play Bumrah out. I can hit him for a six, even on a tough wicket. And obviously proved to be wrong, proved probably to have cost them the match. Now nobody else really stepped up, so I don't blame Rizwan alone. But man, he could have taken his team over the line, and just a
Yeah, but I
hoik
mean,
over mid wicket is what he was going for
y-
off Jasprit
I
Bumrah.
mean, as Rohit Sharma, as captain, you're like, okay, I've got 12 balls left for Bumrah. How do I maximize the effect of those 12 balls?
Yeah,
And if you could have asked for one thing at that point, it would have been for Rizwan to try and hoik one across the line and lose it
yeah,
off stump.
yeah,
The fact is, Bumrah is good enough to know that the awe he inspires in the Pakistan cricketer's mind. I think some Pakistan ex-cricketer was on commentary and he was talking about they are counting the number of balls for Bumrah. Maybe
yeah,
it was Ramiz Raja or Amit Sohail or one of these guys. I don't know who it was. But the awe that the likes of Kohli inspire in Pakistan fans and cricketers, and Bumrah now inspires in Pakistan fans, I think they have that fear factor
yeah,
that they are just like, this guy can do special things. And it's a mindset thing. You've kind of lost half the battle there, if that makes any sense.
yeah,
Because you're like, I, you're not playing the ball, you're playing the man,
yeah,
right? And so there's no cricketing logic to Rizwan swiping that one to try and hit it for six.
yeah,
He'd been batting at less than a run a ball till then.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it came down to it still looked like at the call it 12, 13 over mark, it still looked very doable. Then Rizwan got out, and you're still thinking, this is chaseable, man. I mean, it's a tough pitch to bat on, but when you know exactly how much you need, it feels fairly chaseable. And then, I mean, Hardik balls a ball to Shadab, and a phenomenal catch by Pant. Pant was outstanding, by the way,
Yeah.
behind the wicket. Uh,
Fantastic.
Outstanding, multiple
There
multiple
was one
occasions,
where
even
he nearly
Imad.
fell over the
The
helmet as well,
helmet, yeah,
running
that's
backwards,
the one.
right?
He
That
was
was a
running
superb
backwards,
catch.
and
Both
he
running
almost
backwards of Pandya.
yeah, but then I'm also talking about the Arshdeep one to Imad, where he dived full length to take it like in the
Oh
19th
yeah,
over, like in the
yeah.
20th over, right?
But that had some
Phenomenal.
good comedy value after that as well.
It
When
was
Chuck
just
said,
great.
"Arshdeep, what was he blind? Did he
What
just like he
I've
missed the stumps from like here?
Yeah,
The
Arshdeep
stumps
was
were
all
like
kinds of weird.
1 foot away."
Even at 19.3 or whatever it was, he hits Naseem's pad and just starts appealing, and they're going for the run. And it's like, dude, like go pick up the ball while you appeal and try to stop them taking the run. But anyway, different discussion. But yeah, I mean,
Dear.
20 needed off 2 overs. Bumrah ends up giving, I think, three runs is what he gave off that over.
Yeah,
So phenomenal. Gives Arshdeep enough
unbelievable over.
to defend. Still, though, right? 3 balls left. They needed. Sorry,
16.
now I'm all over
They
this.
needed
They needed
16 to win off.
16,
They needed
which
16
mean
of 3 balls.
which means ideally 2 6s and a four, and they get a four, and you're thinking, okay, interesting. And Naseem Shah, by the way, has done this, right? He's hit 2 6s off 2 balls to win against Afghanistan at one point. Then 2 balls left, 12 needed, 2 6s needed, and he swings it and like over covers, and everybody's hearts in their mouth for a second, because if it goes for six, anything is possible on the last ball. Virat Kohli is running full speed, massive dive, and it bounces just near him and goes for four. And it's sort of anticlimactic at that moment, because at that point you're saying, okay, as long as there's no extras, it's 8 needed off one, India's won the game. But for that moment, while the ball's in the air, in the off chance he hit if he hit 2 6s to win off 2 balls, 1.5 billion hearts would have been broken. It would have been this would have been a very different episode, right? Right now, you and I are feeling it. We're having a
Yeah,
great
we
time.
were almost set to do that episode, weren't we?
Yeah,
When
I was
India
prepared for
bowled out
it
for 110,
about yeah,
119.
yeah,
We were set for doing it. I mean, to be fair, we did plan to do an episode whatever the result.
We were going to do this either way, but it's much more fun to do it after an India win over Pakistan. Why not?
100%. But when that ball went up in the air, and it's a long boundary, man.
Yeah.
It would have been a six on an IPL ground, that.
Yeah.
And that would have been a totally different game. But you could see when Kohli got up, he did a full length dive. Kohli got up. He saw it bounce. He knew it was four. He had a little smile to himself away from the camera because you knew that as long as Arship kept his foot behind the line, that was it.
Yeah.
That was the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, incredible, quite an emotional game, quite a different game from a usual T20 game, right?
Yeah, phenomenal. I mean, this is the thing. We've come from 253 and like 260 runs in IPL games and stuff, and suddenly 119 is being defended. I don't think it's a great. I've been saying the low scores aren't this level of low scores and difficulty to bat is not a great advert for the game of cricket, especially playing it in a new market, trying to grow the game in the US and all that. But absolutely phenomenal. I mean, when your bowlers can defend 119, when India does it, I'm happy about it. So it's great. I'm not upset.
It would have been different if India had failed to chase the 120. We would have been like laying into the Indian batters. But
Yeah,
I mean, we should give credit to Hardik Pandya as well. This New
full
York
credit.
pitch,
Yeah,
he's taken 5 wickets.
yeah,
He hits that back of a length. He's bowling bouncers. He's cramping the batsman for room.
yeah.
He's been. We haven't felt the need for a kind of like Jadeja and Akshar have been sharing the overs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's played the fourth
Pandya
seamer
has been
role
bowling.
to
Yep.
perfection, and he can bat at 5 or 6, right? And that's huge for you.
Yeah.
DJ, quickly on
So-
our group, and then what this means, because you're now sitting here, and we're going to take a break and come back and talk about the rest of the games. But India and the US both have 4 points. India is slightly ahead on net run rate. Pakistan and Ireland have not yet opened their accounts, and Canada's got 2 points. This sort of blows the group wide open. Anything is still possible, but it's looking at this point like India and the US should qualify, which means Pakistan might not make it, right? What do you think? Or do you think there's going to be a way this sneaking?
So what does happen? Like, what does Pakistan need to happen to qualify now?
I think Pakistan needs to beat Canada and Ireland by huge margins. And
Possible.
the US needs to lose to India and Ireland by huge margins. Or I guess India needs to lose both. But let's assume India will beat Canada, right? Let's put that aside. The US needs to lose to India and Ireland by huge margins. So now I'm coming here saying that if you're Rohit and you're on track to beat the US, do you let them get some extra runs so that their net run rate doesn't get hurt too bad? Instead of beating them by 80 runs, do you win by six runs or 7 runs? Obviously, you're not going to do that. But that would be very funny.
If you're Rohit, you're just going to try and
you just want the
win the game, wrap it up quickly, and save your energy for the latter stages of the tournament, which have been the real problem for your team.
Yeah. All right, DJ, great chat about India versus Pakistan. There have been a lot of games this week. We obviously won't cover them all. Why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back and talk a little bit about the rest of some of the matches that happened and wrap up the episode. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. There are lots of you watching on YouTube right now. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and send us in your questions. We'll try to take some of them, or your questions, comments, etc. We just wrapped up talking about India versus Pakistan. I'm sure we're not done. I'm sure it'll come back up.
We can always come back to it.
It's been absolutely phenomenal. DJ, a lot happened. The big game I want to talk about is also involving Pakistan, but the other big one that sort of blew this tournament alive was the US versus Pakistan. 159 runs on the board. The US made 159. Pakistan made 159. The US comes not a bad total. The US comes out, and for the almost the opposite of this match. For the most part, this looked like a very, very straightforward chase, right? For fairly straightforward chase. There were 104 for 1 at one point. Manang Patel, and I'm going to get his pronunciation wrong, but Andries Goose, the South African-born cricketer, were both had an absolutely magnificent partnership. And without getting into all the details, they ended up needing 15 off the last over, which suddenly felt not doable. And a little bit of chaos ensues, drop catch, single, 6, and then a 4 off the last ball by Nitish Kumar in the week of an election. Nitish Kumar, who, by the way, has played for and I think captained Canada before in a previous World Cup, now plays for the US team, hits a boundary off the last ball, gets to super over. Did you get a chance to watch this super over?
Oh, yeah, of course.
It was the wildest thing I've ever seen. Amir bowled, he just could not adjust to, and I'm not going to be able to talk about all of it, but the US made a choice to send out Aaron Jones, obviously.
Aaron Jones.
And Harmeet Singh, who hadn't batted in that game. which is different because I was
Left
saying
hand, right
maybe,
hand.
but left you had Corey Anderson available. You had you had lots of options, but anyway it worked because three times Harmeet faced, or at least twice Harmeet faced, and he
Harmeet,
got wides.
Harmeet even outdid Jack Leach in a partnership. He scored zero in that
But
partnership
he
of
got
90.
his team. He got his team 4 runs of zero
More
balls.
than that, there were wides, and
There
then
were
there were
four wides.
overthrows on wides.
Correct.
There were overthrows on wides as well. It was proper
It
comedy.
was like the most
Pakistan was in
schoolboy
comedy
cricket.
meltdown
Yeah.
mode, man.
It was, I mean, absolutely complete schoolboy cricket. They ended up making 18 with one boundary, no
Yeah,
boundaries.
1-4. They hit
1-4.
1-4 on the
First ball.
first ball.
First ball, they hit a
Aaron
four.
Jones hit it past third man.
I mean, how do you?
And then it just went into comedy meltdown mode after that. It was every time Amir bowled to the lefty, he bowled a wide down the leg side. By the time Rizwan collected and threw the ball, they'd run an overthrow. This happened, I think, three
Three
times.
times, yeah.
Then the fourth time,
Or twice to the lefty. Then the third
twice it
time
happened
was,
to the
yeah.
the third time it happened to the left-hander. Rizwan rolls the ball. Amir takes it and flings it. So they get an overthrow as well. And he's just like, I mean, it was just symptomatic of how it had gone. Pakistan scored 159 very slowly in the first half. Babar got a runner ball 40 something. Pretty difficult conditions. They then were brought back into it by a great over by Amir, a 5-run over. They then nearly had it won where in the last over where Haris Rauf like bowled. The first three balls were awesome. The next three went for runs. I love Aaron Jones, by the way. Every time he hits a four, he does a fist pump.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Is it an American
Just
thing or like?
unclear, man, but it's phenomenal. It's just great to see. He's so fired
I'm
up.
actually waiting for India to play US and for Kohli to like copy his fist pump celebration after Aaron
It's gonna
Jones
be
gets
great.
bowled
It's
or
gonna be
something.
great.
It's going to be awesome. But yeah, it was great. And then Pakistan, they went into complete meltdown mode. This whole comedy, like you see these like club cricket games where kids are throwing the ball up and down and everybody's running. That's what it
Yeah,
was like.
that's what happened.
And
Yeah,
then when they came out to bat, they didn't come out to bat for 9 minutes, dude.
yeah. It seems unacceptable.
Like,
You should have been timed out in some way, right? They're supposed to
yeah,
be
they would
5
have
minutes.
timed two batters out. It would have been over. Like,
Ridiculous.
you're supposed to be at your crease, what, within
5.
2 minutes of your
Oh,
no,
yeah,
but
yeah. But the
2
changeover,
minutes
you
of the
have 5.
last
Yeah.
wicket falling.
So
right?
they would
Like,
have timed both batters out
they
and
could have
lost.
timed both batters out, but
Bizarre.
Oracle engineers
So yeah, let's talk
play
about that,
fair.
right? Saurabh Netravalkar, who has played under 19 cricket for India.
What a stat! He's beaten
Unbelievable.
Pakistan at under 19 cricket.
Unbelievable. Moved to the US, went to Cornell, I think. Now works full time at Oracle. I don't know how much truth there is to this, but there's a screenshot
it's
making
true.
the round. No, there's a screenshot making the rounds that he's out of office is till June
Out of
17th.
office still does, yeah.
But I mean, he may need to take some more time
slack.
off. Full credit, by the way.
slack.
Oracle has has now announced or tweeted saying how proud they are of him and how much they support and all that great stuff. But unbelievable, right? Like this is every Indian kid's nightmare, right? Because every Indian mother is saying, "Look at that guy. He's got a master's degree from Cornell. He works full time at Oracle, and he plays World Cup winning cricket for an international side." I mean, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Great.
Yeah,
lefty.
it was unbelievable, actually. Like,
if India had lost this game to Pakistan and needed the USA game as a must-win by a big margin, I would have been a lot more nervous about our openers facing this lefty quick because he's great. Now some of them have played with him, but he's excellent. So phenomenal. Made 13. Defended 19, got 13, gave them only 13 for 1 in the over. We talked a little bit about this group. Before we move on to some of the other groups and at least one other big result I wanted to talk. DJ, what lies ahead for Babar Azam? Pakistan has gone through some captaincy chaos. You have to think right now. I mean, I want to go watch some of our peers who are podcasting right now to see what the Pakistani point of view is, but it's obviously not going to be good, right? Ours wouldn't have been good if we couldn't chase down 120. What's next for Babar Azam, and where did they go? Who do they make captain next? Who's next in line? How does Pakistan cricket come together if they don't make the Super 8s?
but this must be the worst week in Pakistan cricket
It's got to be
for a long time since
be, yeah.
like maybe the match fixing, spot fixing scandal or something. To lose to,
By the way,
one thing.
the jokes that were flying when Amir bowled 3 wides in a super over. I won't say anything more, but it was
the
too
memes were pretty mean actually. Like there
I
was
mean,
one which said like
no-
no ball nahi wide karunga or
yeah,
something.
it's just
It was like
it's so
it
weird.
was pretty
There was one
harsh.
that said they took them 9 minutes because he was calling his bookie in Vegas, making some bets. That's
Oof.
why.
Ouch. No, no.
No,
I mean, obviously, he brought them back into the game. To
yeah, I'm just
jokes
kidding.
apart,
Yeah,
he just like melted under the pressure. And but like, think about it from the spot fixing scandal. Pakistan has not been at such a low ebb for a really long time.
hmm
I think this is going to be a watershed moment in their T20 cricket. I think they are just going to have to bite the bullet. They're going to have to say, you know what, you guys, you play Test cricket, you play one day cricket, and you play like T20 cricket. I think Rizwan is the number one T20 batter in the world right now,
that's a great
rankings
stat. I
wise.
should check. Yeah,
I think he is. But are they playing T20 cricket in the modern way? Look at the Australia game. David Warner top scored that game, 200 plus game, the only 200 plus
the number
score.
one T20 batting ranking in the world, ranked batter in the world, is Surya Kumar Yadav. Thank you very much.
Okay, okay.
Number two is
And
Phil Salt.
where's
Rizwan is three, and Babar is
yeah,
four. Right, so they got two of
yeah.
the top four technically.
Yeah,
But yeah,
but are they playing T20 cricket in the way it's meant to be played? Like Mitch Marsh,
are you implying they're just playing against Zimbabwe and piling up runs?
no,
Zimbabwe has
Zimbabwe
them.
is not playing at this World Cup, so maybe that's part of the issue,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Sikandar Raza took a really good catch, by the way, in the T20 blast. That,
yeah.
if you guys haven't seen that, go and watch that. But they need to take a hard call with their cricket. Pakistan cricket has always been riddled with a lot of politics and board issues and infighting and announcements. It's not run professionally. It's run basically on talent, right? And it's obviously there will be brilliant talent in there. It's just not going to come to the fore if it's not being administered correctly. But you've got to take a long hard look and see, like, is the PSL, yes, they don't get to play the IPL, is the PSL good enough? I mean, they don't really have a choice, do they? But they were the runners up at the last World Cup. And they
Yeah.
did have a ridiculous loss to a small team, which I can't remember which it was now. Who did they lose to last time?
Man, if you don't remember, I don't remember.
They definitely lost to. I think they lost to Zimbabwe. Maybe
I,
that was
I
the whole
believe.
Park Bean thing that happened.
Oh yeah, of course, in the World Cup. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They did lose to Zimbabwe
Pak
last
Bean,
time in
man,
the
Pak
World
Bean.
Cup.
That's a great memory. And
Yeah,
anyway, it'll be interesting to see. I think Babar will be criticized. It'll be interesting to see if he keeps his position as captain. Obviously, he belongs in the side for his batting, but it'll be very interesting. So, DJ, very interesting Group A dynamic, right? Because unless the US loses by a huge margin to both India and Ireland, by the way, Ireland have looked pretty hapless. So, from what we've seen so far, the US should beat Ireland, and if that happens, I think no result will can get Pakistan through, which is huge. Group B, also very interesting because England and Scotland shared points. We now have a situation at the time of recording this where Oman is eliminated. Scotland has got 5 points, Australia has got four, and Namibia has two. England only has one because they haven't won yet. Now, England plays Oman and Namibia next. So let's assume they win both those. They're at five. Assuming Australia beat Namibia and or Scotland, you have a situation where England and Scotland will be tied at 5 points. That's the most likely scenario at this point. And Scotland's net run rate right now is 2.1, and England's is minus 1.8. So really, it comes down to Scotland don't have to beat Australia; they just have to not lose by a huge margin, and hope England doesn't, make 300 against Oman and get them 16 all out or something crazy. And England might be out of this World Cup too, which is just absolutely wild to think about. I
defending
want to
champs.
Yeah, which is just crazy. This is the thing with this format too. Honestly, Varun and I did the preview where we said Australia and England should make it through, but we weren't really factoring in that Scotland could walk away with a point from rain, and that could change the entire dynamic. I'll come back to Group C because that's the last match I want to talk about. Group D, fairly predictably, South Africa's on top. A little bit of a scare against the Netherlands, to be honest. It looked like they might shake there after having lost to the Netherlands twice, but the one guy you want at the end to finish a game for you is David Miller, and he did it yet again. And Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. I mean, Sri Lanka's sitting languishing at the bottom. I don't expect any major surprise, but it'll be interesting to see which of Sri Lanka or Bangladesh can make it through in that second spot in Group D.
But Naginto went to Bangladesh, right?
Bangladesh, yeah.
Mamadula.
Yeah. So
Mamadula.
if Bangladesh loses to South Africa by a huge margin or comes short against Netherlands or Nepal, let's remember Bangladesh just lost a series to the US. So it is very possible that somebody wobbles in there. So I think this group could be really interesting. let's talk quickly, DJ, about Group C. The three big teams are Afghanistan, the West Indies, and New Zealand. It is early because New Zealand's only played one game, but a loss by 84 runs. I mean, Afghanistan got New
Huge.
Zealand 75 all out. Didn't New Zealand play the last T20 World Cup final?
No, England and Pakistan played it, dude.
Oh, they played it. In New Zealand played it in 21.
20. Yes, because Australia beat them.
Yeah, right. That's not that long ago. And Afghanistan is obviously a force on the world stage. By the way, Varun predicted that Afghanistan wouldn't make the playoffs, so I'm bringing this back up. I mean, it's fair to predict that West Indies and New Zealand. What do you think happens in this group now? Right, it's absolutely blown wide open for me too, because Afghanistan absolutely crushing New Zealand means New Zealand has three must-win games essentially, and must win by a huge margin.
So I think New Zealand are rusty.
Yeah.
Um, I think Afghanistan are going to go through. I think they're just like a well-oiled T20 machine. They just know. Like Fazal Haq Faruqi is he the top wicket taker of this tournament
He's
so
got to
far?
be.
He
I'm
must
sure. I haven't looked at the stats yet, but he's
must
got
be.
to
He's
be. He
got
picked up a 5 for, right, in the first match
yeah,
and 3 in the next. So
yeah,
and by the way, 5 for 9 in 4 overs.
yeah,
What a
fantastic.
spell!
Him,
Granted, it's against Uganda, who's playing their first World Cup, but unbelievable, phenomenal spell.
yeah, but you've got him. You've got Naveen, another IPL player. You've got Rashid. You've got Mujib. You've got Gurbaz, who's smacking it everywhere. It's like
Batted
this is a good
brilliantly.
T20. Mohammad Nabi he's like a afterthought for me. I think he's beaten 45 countries in his career or something crazy like that.
That's wild.
Because
That's
he's
a great
played so
stat.
much
Yeah,
associate cricket.
yeah.
Like he's played like lower level
That's a good
cricket. So he's
stat.
like beaten
That's
50
more than
countries or
most Indian
something.
players will ever beat in their life.
It's insane, right?
By the way,
So
Fazal
I
Hook's
mean,
uh, World Cup figures today are 9 for 26.
not bad.
That's
Yeah. So
insane.
I think they're going through. I think
Yeah.
the West Indies have been a little disappointing for me. Nikki
So
P, of course, is doing Nikki P things.
so net run rate gets really weird here, right? Because Uganda lost their first match by 125 and their second by 134. So the margins of victory get so confusing when you're playing teams that are there's a much bigger delta, because New Zealand could
And
easily
that's
win.
where
Yeah,
that's where what we were talking about earlier, which is rain could play a part. I don't know
huge.
which
Yeah,
games may have washouts because you don't get a net run rate change or effect
yeah,
in games which are washed out. You just split the point. So if a Ugandan game is washed out, that is a disaster for any of the teams that are playing them because
yeah, yeah.
they lose an opportunity to boost the net run rate massively. So yeah.
Very, very interesting.
So
DJ,
I'm actually backing New Zealand and Afghanistan to go through there.
you think the
West
West
Indies,
Indies are going out at their home World Cup?
I
Okay.
I
I think
I
New
think
Zealand's
so. I
out.
don't
That
know.
was my prediction at the beginning, and it stays. I think West Indies and Afghanistan
New
make it.
Zealand are just a good side. I mean, I
Yeah.
think they were rusty. They came across. They'll get together. I mean, Kane Williamson, I think, exemplified the entire thinking of the New Zealand team. I think he guided like Rashid Khan into slip, like
Yeah.
literally, like catching practice.
Yeah.
They've
I'm
just
just
come off a
saying
long plane ride by the looks of it.
I'm just saying there's a world where both the Afghanistan and West Indies teams end up at 6 points. And so even if New Zealand win all three of their matches by a big margin, they need to win by a huge margin, I think, to actually have a chance. So there's a world where they win 3 out of 4, but because they got 75 all out to Afghanistan, that was such a big loss that it takes a lot of digging. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
but the West Indies have already played the easy games, right? They haven't played any tough games.
Yeah,
Played
so they have to win
Uganda
one
and
of New Zealand or
PNG.
Afghanistan, right? Assume Afghanistan will beat Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, but if West Indies lose to both New Zealand
Yeah,
and
of course.
Afghanistan,
Yeah,
then
then New Zealand will probably make it through. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
yeah.
Right, DJ, India's 2 matches as we wrap up. India's last 2 matches coming up. Wednesday, they play, or June 12th, they play the United States, and June 15th, they play against Canada. Both should be relatively easy matches.
Who are
The
you
way this,
supporting for those games?
I mean, I'm Team India all the way. But if the US or Canada make it through, Canada's looking unlikely. They'll be the second team I cheer for. They're like you with CSK for me, because I
Yeah,
lived in Canada
fair.
most of my life. I live in the US now, but yeah, it's like you're always going to cheer for Delhi. But if Delhi's not playing, then you cheer for CSK, right?
Yeah, in most cases,
Yeah, that's going to be true for me.
as
I
long
mean,
as
also
Salah's
just
playing, it's
also just
fine.
the US story is so great. Like it's going to be great to see them make it through. It
It,
doesn't
it is
actually.
amazing. Like I do feel quite jealous of these guys who've carried on playing their
Yeah,
cricket to
yeah.
international level, and they're playing against some of the guys they played against as maybe not. I think he's
Man,
like
you never know if you hadn't.
Netravalkar is Robin Uttapa's generation. I think.
Probably. There are players he's played Mumbai
Like
with
he beat
Mumbai.
Pakistan
With,
14 years ago as an under 19 player.
yeah, yeah. So the generation makes
So
sense.
he's like
I don't know,
33,
man. Maybe if you
34.
hadn't ended up in England, you could have been doing this for Lithuania or something. You could have been playing.
Ah, yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know whether Lithuania would make it to the World Cup, but
Italy has a decent
also,
team
what
now.
would I
And,
do in Lithuania?
I mean,
Like,
they have lawyers
I
there.
do finance law for a
Yeah,
living.
you don't think they have finance lawyers?
I'm
All right,
sure they do, but like it's a different legal system, I'd imagine.
that's fair. DJ, that brings us to a wrap. Great to come live right after India's beaten Pakistan. Very weird kind of a win. Not Kohli hitting a winning boundary or sixth right across in the V and this, none of that stuff. Defending 119, scrappy, efficient, bowling heavy. But that's been kind of the tale of this World Cup so far.
Yeah, and winning is winning, and winning ugly is still winning. I know you're a Djokovic fan, but Alcaraz has won the French Open today, right?
Yeah, big day. I mean, I'm equally, and I don't want to get distracted by this, but I'm equally happy that Zverev didn't win. I'm not a fan of his, so it was a big day for Zverev to not win. But Alcaraz won his third Grand Slam title. But actually, you mentioned winning ugly because that's the title of Brad Gilbert's book, right? It's not the best players. He says don't win the perfect pretty games. They're the ones who can find victories even when you're having an off day and even when the conditions are not supportive, etc. But you get it done.
And I would rather India win games like this and prepare for knockout games than just cruise to the knockout stages
And then
and then be
struggle.
5 for 3.
Man, I had the opposite thought. When we were losing, I was like, good, let's get our losses out of the system. Don't go to the knockouts undefeated or to the Super 8s undefeated. But listen, we all rationalize however we do. Congratulations to Team India fans. Big day in the bag. It's been a good World Cup. Like I said, started slow, but it's come alive. Send us your messages, everybody. We're at One Tip One Hand on all the socials. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Leave your comments below. We read every single one of them. We love to engage with them. And we'll be back next week to talk more about who's going to make the Super 8s. And almost feels like the start of an entirely new tournament because you have different groups and different matches coming to life. DJ, thank you for joining me. Always fun to talk after an India versus Pakistan victory. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you next week on the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.